Women are living longer with fewer financial resources, and we really got to talk about it. We really need to sit down with ourselves, our sister friends, our aunties, our moms, our cousins, and them, our friends, and talk about what our financial future looks like when we get paid less and have fewer opportunities to retire, to save for retirement, and plan for our futures. Welcome back to Nkoyo Unscripted. Hey, audacious leaders, I've been missing y'all. This is your weekly dose of unfiltered insights at the intersection of law, leadership, and learning. And if you're new to me, hey, it's me, Nkoyo, a lawyer, futurist mom, sometimes politician, eager to help you push the boundaries of what's possible, think deeper, and more creatively about how we create and design a world where every single one of us thrives. Let's dive in. Today, we are talking about the elephant in the room, the thing that a lot of us get uncomfortable, a little squeamish to have a conversation and a dialogue about. But we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about it actually for the rest of this quarter. I'm getting into it, not just because it's giving Tuesday coming up, and many of you who follow me are in the nonprofit space. You are leading nonprofit organizations. You're sitting on boards with them. Maybe you're even donating and you're philanthropist giving to them. But first and foremost, we do have that season that we're in is, on the corporate side, it's Black Friday. They're trying to collect all your coins and make sure they get back in the black and end their year profitably. And for many of us, we're maybe reflecting on the fact that we set goals at the beginning of the year to maybe earn more, get a promotion, start that business, hit a certain financial goal or different milestones. And we are into the final stretch of doing that. And so if you have ever heard me talk, I will tell you all the time about one of my favorite books that have kind of shifted the way I think, which is the 12-year, I always get it wrong, so I have to slow down because they be clowning on me. But the 12-week year, which really talks about setting your goals for 12 weeks and really getting out of this annual planning idea and operating fully in this notion that you've got 12 weeks to get things done. Why? Because most of us are deadline driven, and therefore we can get more done in people's typical year in 12 weeks if we're really intentional, set clear goals. Atomic Habits will say not just setting goals, but actually also creating the systems that allow us to reach those goals. James Clear, who I had the opportunity of being a total fangirl in the audience, listening to him give a keynote speak at a conference that I was speaking at a couple weeks back, talked about how we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And for a lot of us, we do not have a systematic way to make sure that we are generating the level of revenue or income that we need. And not to be ominous or a Debbie Downer, but we don't have limitless amounts of time. And so it is incredibly important that we be really mindful, really intentional about how both professionally and personally we are getting to the bag. And so today's session is really going to talk a lot about why we need to be more comfortable having conversations about money, being less polite about that so that we can make sure that we are, one, funding the impact that we desire to have in the world, and two, that we can get to retirement and be able to live on enough funds because we have been intentional about saving, investing, etc. to date. Let me be clear and tell y'all, I am not a financial planner. None of this is financial planning advice. I'm not a financial literacy teacher or any of those things. I'm not a fundraiser. I am a woman who operates in the world and understands how capitalism requires each and every one of us to be working and producing. Has a lot of questions and pushback about that, but also I know and identify that that's the system that we're in. Instead of hating the players, I hate the game, but I got to get in there and understand the game and make sure that we're then leveraging that information to do the things that we need to do, that we know needs to be done to make sure society on a whole is better. If you rock with this and you vibe with this, I encourage you to right now hit the bell, subscribe to this podcast, get in community with us because we are growing, we are leveling up. Someone had a post the other day that, you got to let people who don't have who are not convinced of their own ability to kind of stay where they are until they develop the ambition, the desire, etc., to catch up. So this ship is moving, this train is leaving the station, and I want as many of you on it as possible for us to go. But please know that we are moving, and this is a great opportunity for you to at least get some foundational information about things, how systems work together, how law, leadership, learning all have an interplay together. And I'm bringing and sharing of this from my experience in the classroom as a fourth grade teacher, coaching teachers, as an attorney who started a business accidentally and had to learn how to make money, which is a life skill, sis. Like, that's a life skill. I'm very glad for that opportunity. Even though that first few businesses didn't operate and get to the point that I needed, it really taught me a lot about resilience, about intentionality, and my own money stories that were impacting the way in which I was showing up in the world. It prepared me to go on and run for office twice and ask people for money, sometimes thousands of dollars at one time. And you couldn't have told this little girl from Ogden, Utah, who is Nigerian and comes from a culture where we don't ask people for money, who has internalized a lot of the superwoman tropes about Black women. We don't ask people for help. Having to go and ask people confidently with my full chest to put some money behind this campaign. And so I'm bringing all those experiences. I'm sharing all of that because of the importance of women who have been socialized to believe that we're not good with money, that we shouldn't talk about money, that we shouldn't have a concern, who have been mistaught things. I'm a God girl, are as well. We have all these money stories that we're learning from the Bible about, the love of money is the root of all evil. Not necessarily having money, not using it as a tool. It could be a very neutral thing. It becomes a concern when you're willing to cross your own values, ethical boundaries, etc., in the pursuit of it. But it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. How many of you have been told growing up, money doesn't grow on trees, right? We've adopted these different scarcity mindsets about money, or you got to work hard to have a really nice life, right? So then we overcomplicate stuff when it could really be a lot simpler. And one of the things that I've learned from running a business, running a campaign, is literally, you create some messaging, you ask people for the type of help that you need, and they say yes or no, or maybe, and you figure it out from there, right? A lot of running a business, a lot of running a campaign, a lot of running a nonprofit organization is very simple. It is our mindset, beliefs, perspectives that trip us up sometimes in the process. And so I want to make sure that it's normal in this community for us to talk about wealth accumulation, about getting resources, about money, naming the actual dollar amount that we want, and releasing any sort of guilt or fear or doubt or uncertainty or shame, etc., around our current money stories. A lot of us know we're supposed to be saving, investing, tithing, all these types of things, right? And it's actually a lot harder to do because you might be a spender like me. My husband will let you know all day, every day, that if it was up to Nkoyo, I just want to be able to swipe the card and not worry about it, right? And that comes from different stories from myself growing up. That comes from, there's levels of discipline that I need to have around money myself. And there's a growth that's happening, a level of knowledge and understanding that I need to have about what wealth accumulation actually looks like, right? You can make a lot of money and still be broke. You can, I just was reading an article in Fast Company this morning that was talking about these Henrys, high earners, not rich yet. That's what it's called. High earners, not rich yet. And so these might be people making, I think in the article, they were talking about a family that was making like $750,000 a year. And they're like, we're not rich yet. We're not wealthy. We actually sit in important places like the administrative staff who know all the business, right? But there were partners taking home multiple six figures, even up to $1 million, living on credit, a paycheck away. Literally, please don't let me go this year. My kids are in, paying for college. I'm paying expensive private school tuition. We've just bought this lake house, blah, 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 blah. So just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean that you know how to manage money. Those are two very different things. And this isn't a place to be shamed or be upset or whatnot around it, because let's be honest, very little of our formal education has taught us how to manage money. We don't learn it in K through 12. You know, you might know it because maybe you've had exposure to that because people are around you, or maybe you took a degree in finance and so on and so forth. But what's also interesting about money that I learned, and about people, period, I'm reading Jim Quick, Limitless. And I think it was his book. I'm reading like a million books at the same time, but I think it's his book where he talked about how people aren't logical, which I can tell you is the absolute truth, despite what we like to try to say about the reasonable person. You know, I always disabuse that in law school. Like, nobody's reasonable. We are emotional. But he likes to say people are not logical, they're biological, and that actually emotions have a huge impact on the decisions we make, which is why advertisers and marketers are so keen on finding your pain points and telling stories and connecting with you emotionally to buy things, because we usually make an emotional decision, rationalize it with logic. So I say all that to say we got to talk about money. We have to get more comfortable with money. We need to own where we are with money. We need to release any past mistakes that we've made with money so that we can move into our higher earning, better managed era. Some call it their soft era, whatever it is, however you feel like this shows up for you. But I'm also especially intentional about having this conversation because, one, how we feel and what we do are inseparable. That's Mallory Erickson, who said this at a fundraising conference that I was just at over the last few days. How we feel and what we do are inseparable, which means how we feel about money and what we do with money to attract money, to gain money, to ask for money, all those things are connected. There's no separation. Y'all know me. I will always say till I'm blue in the face, leadership is an inside job first. If you have not mastered yourself or in the process of learning and mastering yourself, it will be very hard to leave transformative, disruptive change because you will get in your own way. I can tell you, truth be told, that is my story. I am a habitual self-sabotager. I get to success and I get like, I don't know. This is a lot. I don't know. Right. And then I back away from it. I start things. I don't always finish them consistently or to the level that I would want to. I love to create. So I always find a new shiny object rather than just like pushing through on the thing. There are lots of ways that it shows up for us. But what I know is until I confront the parts of myself that are pushing me to run away from the very things that I say that I want, that I know that I need, that I'm required to do to get to the next level, I'll never get there. And I share that piece of vulnerability with you because I want you to recognize that if that is you, you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone. Many of us are doing these things. We are growing and healing in public. But the point, the shouting part, the best thing about it is to make sure that we are actually doing the work. But I'm going to talk about funding for the rest of the year and money because, one, funding, for those of you who are in the business space, whether that's nonprofit, for-profit, funding is a capacity issue, right? We need money and resources to be able to do things. Those of you who are out here trying to change the world, who are dealing with intractable problems, it's really hard to shift a system, period. It's really hard to go against the status quo. It's really hard to take a new idea to market and get people to be involved and engaged and amplify it and move it forward to the next stage so that it can have the level of impact that we desire. And baby, it's even harder to try to do that on a shoestring budget. And so I want a lot of us in this space, myself included, to break up with our survivor mentality, to release ourselves from this idea of martyrdom, that we got to work really hard, we got to sludge, we got to do all these things, and we cannot have and be building wealth. We cannot be well cared for. We cannot have the things that we need. We cannot have a holistic way of being wealthy, which I love. Patrice C. Washington, I was just listening to one of her podcasts the other day. She has Redefining Wealth podcast. It's incredible. She talked about going back to the old school definition of wealth, which talks about well-being. That's not just about money, which is what our capitalist system will push us to believe, right? That, wealth is having lots of money. No, maybe that's being rich. Wealth is, are you well? Are the pieces of your life that matter to you in place, in a good place, in the place that you want them to be? Are you able to invest in your sanity, your physical well-being, the relationships that you care about? It is holistic. If you're not already in it, the Leadership Revolt, where we're talking about what it means to be an audacious leader, leading change, pushing systems. We're not just talking about grunt force and working hard and hustling and doing all the really hard things, right? I want leaders, a new wave of leaders, to be women who are well, who have the resources they need, the confidence that they need, the clarity and conviction to go out there and do the damn thing, to go out there and speak truth to power, to go out there and leverage and mobilize others to work with them in community to make sure that we're shifting systems, and to have something for themselves at the end of the day. Like, as someone who is walking through burnout, I don't wish this on anybody. And I don't want leaders to feel like in order to have the impact that we have to burn ourselves to the ground for other people to enjoy the warmth of our light. I believe that there is a both and, rest is resistance. And there's ways for us to really shift the way that the world moves by shifting how we interact with the world. And I specifically am biased towards women, not just because I am one and I come from incredible circle of women who've done incredible things, but because the research shows that when we put resources into the hands of a woman, it changes whole communities. Research also shows that when we put women in positions of leadership, organizations are more profitable, they're more inclusive. Research shows that when we provide women with the information and knowledge they need to invest, that they are actually also really good investors. And even without the data, y'all can look and see around you that there are women all the time figuring out how to make things move, whole mountains move and translate, just in the way that they're thinking creatively, figuring out logistics, operations, etc. I love my mama. She is an incredible, incredible woman. I'm always like, I don't know how you did all this wifing, mothering, and working. There's 5 of us. Like, I don't know how she did it, because these 2 kids I got is taking me out. But one thing that she's always said is that, effectively, that like these roles that women do that tend to be unpaid. I think there's some data that's out there. Y'all know me, I love me some data that says that if American women earned minimum wage for the unpaid work they do around the house and caring for relatives, they would have made $1.5 trillion in 2019. Let me repeat that. If American women earned minimum wage for the unpaid work they do around the house and caring for relatives, they would have made $1.5 trillion in 2019. In the United States, women perform on average 4 hours of unpaid work per day compared to men's 2.5 hours. And even while earning similarly, for those of you who are married in here, husbands spend more time on paid work and leisure, while wives devote more time to caregiving and housework. Listen, we be out here working, and we don't have the resources to show for it. We talk every year about equal pay and the equal pay day and how many cents to a dollar women are making, and Black women, disabled women, etc. And we've been having this conversation for a long time, but really progress towards closing this gap, even though we have identified the issue, has been relatively flat. It has stalled. It was closing rapidly in 1995. We're heading into 2025. We have been relatively flat since then. So the idea that the system or someone's going to come and save us is patently false. I'm reading another really great book, Invisible Women, who talks about how women have effectively throughout most of society been absent in data. They've never been considered. A lot of the data, a lot of the standard of care in healthcare is based on men. A lot of these safety precautions have been based on men. It's only been more recently that women are even included in these conversations. When I ran for state senate, it was cool. It was cute. When I ran for school board, it was like, fine, that's cute. It's school. It's like, she's a woman. Yay. When I jumped into that race and was the only woman, in there, people's attitudes absolutely changed. Absolutely changed. I literally remember being at a forum, again, only woman in the race, which I said all the time, people were mad. And the woman who was hosting it at the end talked about how the Bible says that men are to lead. I'm sorry, excuse me, what? Yes, right. So we have a lot of really strong beliefs. We're watching an election right now where this is the second time a very qualified woman has run against the same guy, and it's still incredibly close, even though we have a lot of evidence about what people are able to do, like their credentials, their fact sheet. I mean, there's a lot of evidence there. People are still like, I'm not really sure about this woman. I need to learn more, right? Like, okay, are you sure about the guy? But, whatever. I'm not going into politics in this conversation, although it has a huge impact on a lot of these things because, hey, I live in Georgia. There was a bill that was put up to the legislature to stop taxing feminine hygiene products. An additional tax, a pink tax that is ascribed to women solely because of our biological need to menstruate, right? We should charge you more for that. You have to buy these products. Okay. And it was struck down. It did not go by. And even though there were all these men in there who, many of which are married and have daughters, they didn't feel like it was necessary to take out this tax on women, that's specifically and only on women, in a state, in a society where women are earning less to the dollar anyway. So this increased price for feminine products has an economic impact when we won't even pay women the same amount for equal work. And let me be very clear with you that the higher you are, the more degreed you are, the wider that income inequality is, that pay equity issue is. So it's not something that you can just degree or certify your way out of. In fact, that actually exacerbates the problem. Try that on for size. But also when you think about the fact that most state legislatures, I think nationally, it's maybe like a quarter of our state legislators are women. I know in Georgia, when I was running for Senate, there were only a handful of women. And so once many of them retired, there would be literally like a handful. I don't even remember the numbers right now, which is wild because I just ran like blocking out the trauma of that. But again, in a lot of instances, we're not included in the data. We're not in the houses, in the seats of power where decisions are being made about us, for us, on our behalf. And we don't always have the bandwidth, the time, the leisure to think about new and different things. And even when we're starting businesses, we're not getting funding the way that our male counterparts are. Don't even add race into that. It's a joke. I think they said less than like 1% or about, less than 2% for sure of all VC funding, venture capitalist funding, went to Black women. I think women-only teams pulled in 2.8% of all venture capital funding in 2023, the lowest tally in 4 years. If you are running a nonprofit as a woman, you are less likely to get the same amount of funding that men who are leading are. Read another really interesting article that was talking about how more women are in nonprofits for a lot of reasons, caretaking, so on and so forth. All the societally gendered things that women care about tend to be dealt with in the nonprofit sector, which is also bizarro land because of the really stringent rules that prevent nonprofits from doing the same revenue generating activities that our for-profit counterparts can do. But even though more women work in nonprofits, men end up leading them, which is, hey, here we go. But I share all this to say that the data is abundantly clear that the odds are stacked against us. And so it is important for us as women in leadership, as ambitious women who are probably been told and called every type of name in the book for wanting more than to be married with children, even if those are things that we want and desire, right? Like the idea of wanting a career for yourself, of wanting to and be willing to aspire for things. I talk about this being punished for ambition as women, that a lot of times we have to figure out how to add it on to all these other things that are on our plate. And whereas if a man were to say that they were going to do these things, society and women would just be expected to make space for them to do it, to create ease for them in the process. And that's not always the reality for us. And because that's the case, and we're existing right now in a time where we might go back, like this might really become the Handmaid's Tale, it is even more important that we as women understand how money works, how it underlies and intersects with so many things that matter for us, how to ask for it, whether that's in the form of a promotion and a raise. No more promotions without raises, friends. Like, what's the title going to do? The cost of living has skyrocketed, inflation, all these things, right? So how do we get to the money so that we have the space and ability to do the things that resourced companies, resourced individuals are able to do? I know people are like, money doesn't make you happy. I'm not asking you to put all your hope and faith into money making you happy. I'm asking you to put your hope and faith into building the skills to get the resources that allow you to create the breadth and space that you need to think clearly, to rest, to take care of yourself, to invest in the things that matter to you, so that you can have a wealthy life, a well-rounded, holistic, healthy life. And so with that, I'm doing a couple of things this month. Actually, this will drop on Saturday, so October 22nd, 7 p.m., we're doing an audacious leadership chat. If you ain't been in the building for an audacious leadership chat, I need you to get here. These are courageous conversations designed to catapult your thinking so that you can be a better leader in your life, regardless of whether you have a title, right? Like, I'm not here. You don't need to be the director of something. You don't need to be CEO. You are the leader of you. That's probably one of the best affirmations I ever heard from Patrice C. Washington is, I am the CEO of my life. You are the CEO, sis. And so I want to make sure that I'm equipping you to do the things that you need to do to run and design the life that you desire and have the impact that you want. And it is truly my belief that if more of us are operating in flow, in excellence, in our strengths, and have the things that we need to do what we need to do, that the world will be a better place. I believe those closest to the problems are the ones who have the best solutions. They just lack the agency, resources, and support to do them. And so I want to teach you the future skills that I believe are important to make sure that you're able to design the life that you want. You could put on your mask, and then you can put on the mask of all the communities, because I believe, as the research shows, that when we put those resources into the hands of a woman, women gonna make it do what it needs to do for the many. And that's not to say that this isn't what men will do. This is not to bash men. My belief about equity and equality is that we don't need to create new oppressors, that we actually need to get on equal footing. The Bible talks about being equally yoked. And right now we have systems and mindsets and structures that prevent us from being equally yoked, which puts a pressure on all of us in ways that's not healthy. And I want to do my level best to eradicate some of that so we can experience a tiny bit of heaven on earth. It's also important that you have and develop these skills so that you can, if you are leading an organization, a social impact enterprise, a nonprofit in particular, my nonprofit leaders, I'm talking to you right now. Like I just said, more women are in the nonprofit space. We are often drawn to that for a number of different reasons, including the fact that a lot of corporate America does not really align with the responsibilities and roles that women are required to have, that some of us, myself included, are bleeding hearts. And so we are drawn to causes anyway. And then the socialization of helping other people, putting other people first. It's an epic storm of a number of things. But if you're in the nonprofit space, especially if you are a founder, especially if you are a board member and you are doing work advocating for women and children, I want to make sure you get to the money to do that as well, so that you don't have to sacrifice your well-being in order to help others. And so I'm also hosting October 27th to 29th, the Giving Season Accelerator. We are building out your plan to get to the bag this giving season, which for us, we are defining that as starting on Giving Tuesday and running all the way to the most important giving days of the year, December 29th, 30th, and 31st. So we are going to help you design a plan, a clear plan and strategy to make sure that you are engaging your network, your community, your stakeholders, and asking them to help you get the resources you need to be able to do the work. And so it is going to be happening again, October 27th to 29th. We will have really great sessions, practical things. I'm not just going to talk to you about what you should do in theory, like we're building out templates and checklists and resources that you need so that you can actually learn why we're doing this, plug and play and get to the money. I didn't even mean to rhyme. Look at me, I'm a poet. Didn't even know it. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to share there. We absolutely have to be intentional about getting to the money, especially because we will likely live, for those of us who are partnered, outlive our partners. And many of us are not saving for retirement. We don't have the resources to save for retirement, regardless of what the income looks like. A lot of us are investing a lot in ourselves, in our community, because we are caregivers in a lot of different ways. And so going back to Patricia Washington, who really did impact me a lot very early on. She used to call herself the money maven before she transitioned into this redefining wealth, was that, we're not going to save our way into wealth. We're not going to cut coupons and budget our way into wealth. At a certain point, we actually have to go make more money. We have to generate more money. And so I want to make sure that I'm equipping you with the mindset, skills, and tools that you need to get started on that journey, so that you can then acquire all the people and team to help you figure out how to bring in more, manage it effectively, and ultimately have the impact that you hope to have in the world. So I'm gonna land my plane on that. That's why we're gonna be talking about money. And y'all can say what you want to say about me about it. But when I'm a rich, don't say I didn't try to bring you on the journey with me. Sharing is caring. So if this was helpful, this was useful to you, you learned something, it's got you thinking a little bit differently, please subscribe, share with me in the comments, tell your friends, because we definitely want to make sure that we are moving together in abundance and that we're building the momentum and the next generation of wealthy AF women who are designing a system where we're no longer invisible, but we are equal participants, equally valued in it. All right, well, now it's time to get to one of my favorite things. Actually, did it do it? We are here at That's So Unserious. I didn't actually make the little thing for it, but I'm going to tell you what my unserious of the week is, and y'all can call me petty or shady or whatever. Did you know that the Atlanta Public School Board is about to pass a budget that has a $103 million shortfall? No, first of all, that you could pass a budget that has a deficit, that you could know that going in and be like, yep, that's what it is, we're going to do. And because, I'm still a little bitter about losing that school board race with an opponent who talked a good game about all her federal grants experience and budgeting, etc. Like, how y'all got all this expertise on there and you have $103 million shortfall? I feel sorry for the superintendent, right? They just brought in a new superintendent. You got all these things that you got to do, and what you find out is someone missed the mark on the math by $103 million. Now, this is not serious. This is so unserious. This is not serious. It's not real. This is not serious. But what I will say is, when I ran for office for school board, we talked a lot about the literacy gap and how low proficiency was in literacy. What didn't get a lot of emphasis at that time was how low, even lower than the low proficiency in literacy, math proficiency is. And I'm a humanities girl. I went to a liberal arts college. I went to the law. I tried to avoid these numbers, period. And then I ran a business and it was like, there's no avoiding the numbers. You got to have an understanding of the numbers. But here's the thing. Math is a future skill. Literacy is a future skill. And so when we have a district that doesn't have the resources to ensure that the next generation of people who are going to be coming up in this AI plus era, like, sidebar, my kid was like, man, I wish I had a robot who could just do these things for me. Like, he's 5. And I was like, I mean, at a certain point in time, he might have a pet robot. Like, I don't know. Like, is that where the future is? Like, that's kind of wild. But if we are not preparing them with the foundational skills that they need to be able to thrive in the future economy, we are doing ourselves a huge disservice, because we're all going to be old one day and be relying on this next generation to carry us forward. And we're not preparing and equipping them. Not to mention, children don't get a vote. They don't get no vote. They are fully reliant and dependent on what we as adults do. And when we can't get the funding right, the budget together, the curriculum and all these pieces together, we are literally derailing the future of people who have no other option but to sit in our schools, sit in these communities, and hope for the best. And so it's insane to me. I did not know you could pass a budget that wasn't balanced, but we're here. And if you live in the city of Atlanta and you're in the Atlanta Public Schools district, I need you to be asking a lot of questions to raise some righteous anger, holy hell, because we got to do better than this. We have got to do better than this for the next generation. That's it. I'm off my high horse again. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that I have shifted your thinking. I hope that I have shared some insights with you. If this was helpful, I ask, I plead, I beg that you share it with other people, that you like, comment, and subscribe. That's how I grow my influence and impact and get more people in and be able to share this knowledge and create and build this community with them. And so I'm asking for your help in that. If you could please share this with one or two other women who you know need to be in conversation about money. I will drop the links for both the Audacious Leadership Chat that's happening October 22nd at 7 p.m. on Zoom, as well as the Giving Season Accelerator that's happening October 27th to 29th on a different platform, Crowdcast, where yes, the replay is available, the tools, etc., are all available. Please let as many people as you know about it so that we can absolutely ensure that we have a healthy group of women and leaders who have the resources they need to fund their impact. All right, well, that's all I've got for you. Until next time, go lead audaciously.